Cragwell the Frog. 6 mana, 4/6. Battle card. Return all spells you played last turn to your hand. Why does Volcano have an overload? I mean, like, okay, if you play Hex, then next turn cast this, you're happy, right? Like, that's good enough, right? So, could Shudderwalk play this card?
I think a lot of decks can play this card.
Okay, so this is one of those cards that I read, I go, this is crap, and then I read it again, and I start realizing, just getting a Volcano off this is probably okay. Getting a Hex back is probably okay. So, I think this card's really good. I think because it's a powerful battle cry, it's a medium body, but the battle cry is so good that you could have to make up for the tempo by just getting back a sweeper or a hex or something like that. Also, the coin counts as a spell, which is nice. So, like, you could go turn 5 coin, a 6 drop, then next turn play this and get another coin. Which, okay, let's assume the 6 drop was a spell for just our conversation's sake. But you can get back the coin too. If you get back multiple spells, like if you went like turn 10, Lightning Storm Volcano, and then next turn you play this, that's insane. So I think this card's really powerful. I expect to see play, and I think Shudderwalk wants it.
What's your rating for it?
8.
8? Yeah, I love this card. Shaman got so many cool, like, such good legendaries. This frog is just like nothing but solid value for like a minor tempo loss. Like 4/6 for 5 is pretty consistent, so a 4/6 for 6 is obviously understated, but it's not grotesque. And it's really important that it has a bigger butt than it is its attack. So 6 mana, 4/6, get a Hex or Volcano back sounds really, really good. Probably good in any Shaman deck pretty much that can cast this card. I'm gonna give it an 8 as well. It's just a really solid value card.
And yeah, you guys are naming like AoE cards. I'm thinking about playing like Electra Farsight into this dude and just like going off that way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really curious how this card interacts with Electra. If I cast
you cast twice.
Yeah. If I can get 2 more Farsights out of this card in a control matchup, that is busted.
It doesn't say cards you cast last turn.
It says played, right? So I'm not actually 100% sure.
Oh, you're right.
But it'll guarantee give me 1 back, and you know, get it. I can storm on 5 and or I'm sorry, storm on like, you know, a later turn. Basically, any overload spell makes this awkward to curve out, but Farsight specifically, I think is really cool. And then like once you play Hagatha, I mean, then stuff just starts getting silly. You can like Lava Burst, Lightning Bolt your opponent's face, and then next turn play this dude and get it back. Like this card's really cool.
Yeah, he's good with burn.
I'm gonna rate 8 out of 10 because I don't love his stat line, but I think the battle cry is extremely powerful enough to still see play in a lot of the Shaman decks that we're gonna see after this expansion comes out.
Zentimo. Go
what
ahead.
Did you say his rating was for you?
8 out of 10.
8 across the board. Gotcha. Go ahead, GHP.
Zentimo, 3 mana, 1/3. Whenever you target a minion with a spell, it also targets adjacent ones. So what comes to my mind is play this and play either Earthshock or play this and play Hex.
You dirty control player.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking Unstable Evolution.
Oh my god, wait, it's target a minion, not target an opposing minion. That's insane.
Yep.
That's disgusting. Cool.
Yeah.
I think this card is so powerful that it has to find a home somewhere. I don't know if Shudderwalk wants it because they don't have a ton of targeting. It's just Hex and Earthshock. But this card is so powerful that it's going to see play. It's an 8-star card, and I fucking love it.
Yeah, I was super excited about this card when it came out. It's so powerful. Like, it combos with so many cards so easily. Like, it's almost, you almost don't have to think about the card. It just generates so much value so easily with already commonly played Shaman cards. It just makes most Shaman strategies better. instead of like needing to be built around. I'm giving it a 9 because Hex your board is pretty hilarious. Lightning Bolt your board is pretty hilarious. This card's really good. It would be a 10 if it was statted a little better or if it costed 2 mana, but it's going to be a 9 for me.
Yeah, this card is just off the chain powerful. Like, you know, you described how this card just enhances everything that all the shamans are already doing. That's literally exactly what we said about Electra Storm Surge. Look at what that card's done. Obviously statted a little better, but I mean, this card is wicked powerful. I mean, we just named a bunch of spells that are super powerful. And same deal, I think, with Hagatha, you know, there's a lot of silly stuff that can actually happen with this card that you can totally plan around. It's going to be really hard to not get value out of this card. So I'm going to go with probably gonna say 9 out of 10. It's not like gonna break the game, but it's gonna be in every Shaman deck that isn't even Shaman.
Alright, let's when I find the next image. Oh. Haunting Visions. The next spell you cast this turn costs 3 costs, discover a spell. I think this card's kind of ridiculous. 9 out of 10 if you play it in Shutterwalk, for example, because you just play it the turn you want to play Volcano to get a spell, or you just like, oh, I need Volcano, go get Volcano. Sometimes you need Bloodlust, because sometimes you kill people, go get Bloodlust. It's not too hard. This card's great. It's gonna be played as a 2-of in every Shaman deck, unless the 3-drop slot is too crowded, which I don't think so. I think this card's good enough to just play.
So I think this card's a 10, and that's because it's strictly a better primordial glyph, besides it costing 3. Because instead of restricting the reduction to the card you discover, it's deleting the mana cost for that turn. So this card is 0 mana. Find a spell, play a thing. I can't even think... The reason I want to give it a 10 is because I can't even think of a Shaman deck that doesn't really want this, that can play it. Like, every Shaman will probably play this card unless it's even Shaman. It's just such high value. Yeah, it's just free discover and then play the card you wanted to play anyway. Yeah, or like play a really undercosted spell that you discover randomly. Yeah, I love this card. I'm giving it a 10. Big fan.
I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there, because I have looked at pretty much every card in the set except for some of the crummy neutrals. This is my favorite card in the set. This card is way too powerful. Shaman has just some of the best spells in the game, and it's not even close. Like, this turns into a Lightning Storm on turn 3. This turns into a Volcano on turn 5. This turns into a Farsight on turn 3.
A Hex on turn 4.
This can discover you a Farsight, and then... I'm sorry. This can discover you a Volcano that you'll play 2 turns later, and then you can play the Farsight in your hand for free. Like, you do not have to play the spell you get off this card with it. That's part of why this card's so crazy powerful.
No, the next spell you cast this turn costs 3 less. Discover spell. So the spell you discover doesn't cost 3 less.
No, but what I'm saying is, yeah, exactly. You can play a different spell from your hand that turn.
Yes, okay.
So like you're not restricted to playing a cheaper card that you get. You can play this card and say, whoop, didn't discover a spell I like. I guess I'll just play this 0 mana lightning spin in my hand already.
Yeah, I'm really excited to play this card, discover Volcano, and then to cast Farsight from my hand. That's the play I want to make every single day. Shutterwalk. For the rest of my life.
What's your rating?
10. It's a 10.
Okay, I'm gonna go to a 10 too.
Yeah, it's insane.
Big Bad Voodoo. Give a friendly main death rattle, summon a random main that costs 1 more. This is just like what's this Ancestral card? The one that
Ancestral Spirit?
Yeah, Ancestral Spirit. It's just like Ancestral Spirit. I generally don't like this type of effect of give something a death rattle. That basically resurrects it in some way. So I'm gonna go with, I think this card is like 3 stars. I think it's worse than Ancestral personally, and if that's the case, like Ancestral sees 0 play except in combo. Yeah, I don't really have a lot to say.
Yeah, I agree. It's like strictly worse because you don't know what you're going to get. So like it insinuates extra value, but with all of the nerfs and a lot of the value battlecry cards we print now, evolving to a random minion one more can often be just worse.
Yep.
So I'm not a big fan of it. I'm putting it at, because we don't ever run in, like I would call Ancestral a 3 out of 10 card, so I would probably call this a 2. Personally. It's bad.
It's like we used to have Evolve, right? And it's like, look at this card compared to Evolve. I mean, it's not even close. It's really, really bad. I'm gonna give it 2 out of 10. So it is decent value, I suppose, on a minion that costs a decent amount of mana. But other than that, I'm not really convinced this is ever a card I would put in. So 2 out of 10.
Alright. Spirit of the Frog. Stuff 1 turn, 3 mana 03. Whenever you cast a spell, draw a spell from your deck that costs 1 more. There's a lot of parts in the Shaman curve that misses, or there's a lot of cards in the curve that they miss. Like, I know Storm goes to Hex, and Hex goes to Volcano, but Volcano goes to nothing. And there's nothing at 2, and Earthshock goes to nothing. I actually think this card is really powerful, but really bad right now. I just don't think there's a shell to make this card work because your spells are so random and they don't continue to go up the chain very well. Like, that kind of sucks to say, but I'm pretty sure that's how this is going to work out. I don't think this card's going to see any play. I'm going to rate it 4 stars just because it's powerful, but I don't see it doing anything.
I agree with everything you said. Yeah, this is a really powerful effect, but Shaman doesn't have the right tools to make use of it, so it probably won't. Like, the fact that it can just whiff half the time probably makes it unplayable, because then you. This is also a fairly expensive spirit at 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4 as well, because in the future they may get some Shaman spells to fill that curve, and it could actually be good.
I'm not really sure. Like, I think any card that has go is like powerful card, but I mean, it's only as powerful as you have cards to draw from your deck, and it's like inherently a card with Echo is going to cost the same amount every single time you cast it, and you probably don't have 4 1-drops in your deck to draw with Unstable Evolution. So I'm not really sure where this card can find a home. I'm gonna rate it 3 stars because a 3 minute 0/3 is really low value, and there's nothing immediately right now that really strikes me as like a combo with this card that makes it worth the tempo loss of playing a 3 mana 0/3 that does nothing.
Alright. Bog Slasher. 3 mana 3/3, Battle Cry. Return a friendly minion to your hand and give it +2/+2. So it's kind of like Youthful Brewmaster. And one thing I keep hearing people say is this card might be playable in Shutterwalk, which to that I say, well, Brewmaster's not. It's kind of insane to go play Chain Gang, bounce a Chain Gang, play a 4/5 Chain Gang. But I don't really see this card in Shaman being that good. Even if it technically worked on Shutterwalk combos, so does Brewmaster, and Brewmaster never stopped playing the deck, so I don't think this card's anything particularly special. It's also a bad tempo play a lot of the time, so it has to be getting a powerful enough battle cry. I'm not sure that's the case in like most of what your Shaman decks look like. So I'm gonna say this is a 4-star card because bouncing something is powerful and getting its battle cry again, but again, I just don't see this card doing anything.
So I think this card has potential. In returning a friendly like minion, giving it +2/+2 is like better the cheaper the minion is. I actually think some of the best targets for it are probably totems to just play 1 mana 2/4s with an effect.
Sure.
That's honestly I think the best mode for this normally, and I think that's actually pretty good because returning your like healing totem back to your hand that wasn't doing anything on the board anyway. Wasn't much of a wasn't really a tempo loss, and then you can replay it next turn as a 1-mana 2/4 for a tempo gain. So it's pretty. I think it has ways to be like okay on curve without being insane. I'm sure there's like you said with like Serenite, there's obviously cards with this that like Wombo with the battle cry better, but even its mild form is okay. I'm gonna give it a 6 just because it has potential, and it's a 3-mana 3/3, so it's like pretty okay statted.
I think I'm going to give this card a 5 because it has outside of otherwise being a 3-mana 3/3 to bounce my dude is not very good. But the only upsides I see to this card are bouncing a Serenite Chain Gang and replaying it with +2/+2, which would also add another Serenite trigger to my Shutterwalk pool, as well as this card is a redundant bounce effect for Shutterwalk in the Shutterwalk pool. So I would be able to theoretically get a 9-mana Shutterwalk back that would have +2/+2 when I Shutterwalk off. So I'm not really sure if this card is good enough to put in Shutterwalk because it already has cards that basically do what it does better in Zola, where you don't suffer a massive tempo loss. So I'll give it a 5 out of 10 on the chance that like maybe Shutterwalk wants this card to just make their combo ever so slightly more consistent and get a little bit more value. It is an elemental. You can draw it with Sandbinder, but I think that's stretching it a little bit. I'll give it a 5 for now.
Alright, Liquor Room. 2-mana, 1/3 weapon, has +2 attack. We have overloaded mana crystals. I think this card is worse than Stoneforge X all the time because, like, overloading basically repeatedly to make this card valuable is pretty bad. And I think Stoneforge X is pretty bad. Even though this doesn't overload you. I think this is a 2-star card. I just don't see the deck. I don't think it would have saw play when like mid-range Shaman or like Tunnel Trog was good. I don't think it would have saw play in that deck, and if it wouldn't see play in that deck, it wouldn't see play now. So I think this card's really bad.
Yeah, I agree. Like overloading yourself on purpose to get +2 attack is pretty horrible. I don't think there's a lot of cards like the playable Shaman cards that have overload are also like by far the most commonly played are board clears. So you're in this awkward scenario where you have a weapon that you're giving attack, and the 2 spells most Shaman decks play that have overload make it so there's no targets on board to swing at. So that means this card best purpose is going towards being aggressive. So then the cards we have to look at are one that we're going to look at coming up, which is Rain-a-Toads, but and you know, like Lightning Bolt and things like that. But that just seems like really inefficient value. I don't like this card. I'm going to give it a 2 as well.
Yeah, I'm not really impressed by this card. This card is a perfect example of why the 2-drop spell that Rogue got that gets a weapon is bad. This could be one of the options, and it would be a Feels Bad Man. I'm going to give this card a 3 out of 10 because sometimes it's going to be a 3/3 weapon. And I can see application if you're trying to like tempo this out and you know your opponent went like Firefly into Dagger into Hench Clan and you're like, I gotta storm this, and I storm and still get to clear because I have my 3/3 weapon and it's great. That's one thing that I will say is kind of cool about the card is that it's overloaded both on the turn that you overload the crystals and the turn after. So maybe this ends up seeing play. I will say that overload as a mechanic is one of the most like punishing mechanics. It's just like not super good value to the cards themselves are often, you know, it's really hard for the card to be playable when it has overload. It has to be really strong to justify losing mana on your next turn. So yeah, not super impressed.
Okay, let's look at our last Shaman. Is this our last Shaman? No, it's not, damn it. 6 mana, Rain of Toads. Summon 3 2/4 Toads with Taunt Overload 3. So it's 6 mana, summon 6/12 Taunt. And then In theory, it costs you 9 mana total.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this card's crap. I think that Overload is huge. And I think I'd rather be playing cards like Volcano if I needed something to affect the board like this. I don't think 9 mana is worth this much. Even though it's not exactly 9 mana, I don't think 9 mana is worth anywhere near this effect. But, yeah, I don't see this card team play. 3 out of 10.
I have a lot of the same feelings with you on this card. I think it's a little better than that. It's like a really bad spreading play. 2/4 is good though. Like one thing I'll say is like the minions that you get from this is way better than the spreading plague minions. Like I think a 2/4 is far superior to a 1/5. But 9 mana is a lot. And yeah, it's not all this turn, but like if you have to spreading plague on turn 6 and then turn 7 you have 4 mana, your options are pretty crappy. I'm gonna give this a 4 because I think it's actually an okay card to discover in a tight spot, but you'll never want to put this in your deck. This is just something you'll want to get off of, like, maybe not want, but like a card you'd be willing to take off Haunting Visions sometimes.
Yeah, or you can get it off like Hagatha potentially. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, on paper it's 4/12 in stats for 6 mana, which is Sleepy Dragon. Sleepy Dragon's 9 mana.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this card would be a lot better if like Lava Shock was still legal, something that like got rid of your overloaded mana crystals, because 3 overload is super duper punishing. Like I was just saying about the luck, like it's not good to overload, and the difference between 2 and 3 is absolutely devastating. You want to be playing your super big late game cards, or tempoing out with multiple cards in the late game, and this card just kind of fumbles that plan. So I think I'm gonna get. Well, I mean, it kind of has a nice curve, I suppose, for what Shaman's trying to do. If you were trying to go like Volcano on 5, this on 6, have an off turn from Overload, and then Hagatha, right? So I guess I'll give this card 4 out of 10 because it's not awful stat wise. It's honestly at the same rate that Sleepy Dragon would be at, just on 3 bodies instead of 1. But Overload is just such a huge tempo loss that I think it's not going to be good enough.
Plus, most decks don't put Sleeping Dragon in their deck. They're okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Sleepy Dragon isn't actually a good card.
That's true.
Alright, Totemic Smash. 1 mana, deal 2 damage. Overkill summon a basic totem.
Well, it's overkill? God.
1 star crap card.
Decent. Oh, man.
Yeah, 1 star card's crap.
What?
Dude, I just play Earthshock if I really cared about like a 1 mana spell.
This does twice the damage of that.
And it can go face.
And it can go face.
Wow, stop naming things that are really like the face doesn't matter.
All right,
Are
I'm
you
gonna say
kidding
stuff
me?
right now that's gonna be like total. I'm gonna argue that right now.
You're playing Control Shaman
right now that we could 10 mana if you play the 6 mana spell that plays a copy of a minion in your hand.
Okay. Oh, Maui Lightning or Maui Lightning Bolt Smash is 16 plus 14, which is dead.
Yeah.
Alright, this is a 4-star card because that combo is actually really easy to do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like
So-
and like honestly, like I really don't think a 1 mana 2 damage card is really that bad because it doesn't overload you.
Yeah.
So it's not like Lightning Bolt that like kind of restricts you from using it as early targeted removal. You can just throw this at a Flame Imp and you never feel bad.
It's good against it's okay against aggro, and
Has OTK abilities. But,
okay,
you know,
the OTK is
mid-range
great.
Game is pretty bad.
But if I think it doesn't see play in non-OTK decks, which is why I don't think it's very good.
Fair.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with 3.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 5 because I think it has limited use, but it is okay to play against aggro without being in a combo deck, and it has combo potential. So that's enough for me to make it at least mediocre.
Yeah, this card is super interesting. Like, with any sort of spell damage, it summons a 0/2 pool. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think this card's highest application is going to be in some sort of a combo with Malygos. That's the first thing I think of when I see 1 mana deal 2 damage.
Yeah, it
No,
turns out you could deal
100%.
30.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely not playing this card to summon what's it called? A basic totem. But, you know, it's still always 1 mana deal 2 damage, which is like an okay rate. And you can use it as an anti-aggro tool, or play it with Blood Mage Thanos, or just if you roll your spell power totem, it can deal 3 damage, then it's Frostbolt. So I'm gonna rate it like 4 out of 10, because I don't actually think like OTK deck's gonna be very viable. Because so many of the decks right now like gain armor or have ways to get above 30. Paladin's going to be joining that group here soon.
Yeah,
Like,
OTKs
they
need
use
to.
Electra and Fireball. Or what's the 5
I'll
damage?
burst them, dude. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Just build a Pyroblast the following turn.
Alright, Wartbringer. Or JT, did you give a rating?
Yeah, he said
4 out
right?
of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wartbringer. 1 mana, 2/1. Battlecry if you played 2 spells this turn, deal 2 damage.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. 5 stars because it's a solid card, but unplayable.
5 stars.
I gave it 5 because it's powerful, and then my other 5 stars that are missing are because there's nowhere for it to ever see play ever.
I question your powerful statement. I think it's like barely okay.
Okay, you're right.
'Cause
It's a 2-star card. Let's be honest with each other. It's
'Cause,
crap.
like, how many? Let's look at all the 2/1s for one we have in Hearthstone. And that's better than all. This is probably worse than the vast majority of them.
Yeah.
On curve, and its Battlecry requires a lot of cards for a really mediocre effect. I'm gonna give it a 2. And yeah.
This card is trash.
Are we getting a 1?
I'm sorry. No, it can't be a 1. It's a decent static 1 drop at a 1 mana 2/1. I think it's super unrealistic to trigger the Battlecry, because the best this card probably gets is being a 1 mana 2/1 against Evenlock on turn 1, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I don't know what deck would play this card, and I think it would be really difficult to trigger the Battlecry. So at that point, it is just a 1 mana 2/1. Doesn't even have a card type. I'll give it a 2 out of 10. It's not quite a 1.
Alright, we're done with Shamans.
Boom.
And I think Warlock won't take too long, to be honest. There's only a couple talking points. Alright, Hyreke the Bat. 8 mana, 1/1, feel you borrow copies of this minion. So if you Soul Infusion this, it's put 7 3/3s in play. If you double Soul Infusion, it's put 7 5/5s in play. Well, with that in mind, because I just talked about a lot of things going right, I think this card's crap. 2 stars. Or 3 stars, because sometimes it just wins the game on the spot, but so do a lot of cards. But this card is so unrealistic, in my opinion, to make work, and I don't think it's worth the payoff. So, yeah, I think it's just bad.
Yeah, if it wasn't 8 mana, I would be more willing to talk about like potential.
What if this was like a 10 mana 2/2?
It would be garbage, unplayable.
I think it'd be better than what it is.
At least this one I can do something with it. Like, I can buff it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think... Like, you look at Gul'dan, and you look at this being a 10 mana 2/2. like it's not even...
Yeah,
like,
okay.
close.
Card's crap.
So, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10 as well, because it has potential to be worked with. It's good with Kaliseth.
Is it?
I mean, yeah, it becomes...
It's fine. You know.
Listen, the standards of a 3 out of 10 are pretty low.
I know.
3 out of 10.
You guys covered this card pretty well, so I don't have a ton to say. I'm going to vote this card 2 out of 10.
Just.
because if I was to ever play this card, I'm sure it would immediately get AoE'd and I'd be very sad. Like, if this card just didn't require setup that, like, specifically had to be built around it, it would be fine. But, like, Dragon Caller Elena slots perfectly into Big Spell Mage because big spells are the entirety of the game plan of that deck. So this card is trying to slot into a deck where the entirety of the deck is hand buffs. And that doesn't sound very good to me. So, at 8 mana, I think it's super hard for this card to ever beat. So I'm going to give it 2.
High Priest Jequick?
Yeah.
4 mana, 3/4 taunt lifesteal. When you discard this, add 2 copies of it to your hand. So basically, when you discard this, draw an extra copy type of thing. So if you don't get the synergy, a 4 mana 3/4 taunt lifesteal is not good enough. But if you replicate this a bunch, it's okay value to just print out every turn. I think so. I have a really interesting take on this card, where I think this card is playable because it has taunt and lifesteal, and that means you could play Corpse Taker. Not because it's a good card. And I think it's like if you're playing, okay, if you're gonna play a bunch of ways to discard, and I guess like maybe you play Quest, sure, you could play this in your deck to get a few extra copies. But I can't see this card like being good without discarding it multiple times, which means it's hard to get enough value out of. I think you play Corpse Taker with it, like it's a buff to Corpse Taker because Warlock doesn't have good lifesteal. But besides that, I'm not really impressed with the card. I think it's like super awesome, but that doesn't stop me from giving it a 6 out of 10.
So like, I think it's a little like I don't think it's mind blowing, but I disagree that. Three, 4. So we're paying a 1 mana for lifesteal and taunt, which I think is fair. It's definitely not exciting. It's not an exciting card on its own when we talk about that, but like it's fine. And in this mid-range, just discard zoo thing that they're trying to push, it's really good at that. I think if you discard this card once, you got enough value out of it. I think getting like doubling these and just having 2 to be able to like heal for minimum 6 and like clog up the board is pretty darn good, especially when you pair it with a card we'll go over in a couple, Soul Warden. I'm gonna give this a 7 because it has a lot of potential, but I'm not totally sold that it has the right tools to reach that potential yet.
Yeah, I was kind of saying that, like, you know, building your entire deck around hand buff is not necessarily very realistic, but I think this card's actually super powerful. If you discard this one time, it's really, really powerful. And we have a couple cards that we'll talk about in a minute that synergize with this card. I'm going to give the card 5 out of 10 right now because I think I would pay 4 mana for a 3 deal. That's just like a decent anti-aggro statted card. The lifesteal and taunt kind of make up for the extra mana from the 3/4 stat line. And if you discard it once, it's really, really powerful. If you discard it once and you're in a deck where you have multiple discard synergy spells, this card can generate like stupid amounts of value if you just start discarding them. If you start discarding 2 to like things like Doomguard, like there's a lot of ways to actually synergize with this card. So I'll give it a 5 for now.
Alright, Void Contract. 8 mana, destroy half of each player's deck. Well, I feel like this is the way you beat combo decks. That's all I got. I think it's a 4-star card that might see play if you need some anti-combo deck, anti-combo like tech in your like control lock deck. Because, for example, how the math works out is imagine I'm playing even lock versus some deck. And most likely even lock draws more cards than the opponent. So let's say I have 10 cards in my deck and you have 16. I cast this. I have 5 and you have 8, so I lessen the gap between us as well when it comes to going to fatigue, which means it's not like as terrible for that deck. But I think this card is only a tech card at best, and at worst, it's like, oh, they already drew all their combo. Oops, I'm dead. So it's really hard for me to evaluate this card, honestly. I think it's a 4 out of 10. I think it could see some slight play as a tech card, because if you play it and you hit any part of the combo, you get the big W.
If it didn't cost 8 mana, I'd be willing to give it like a below average ranking. But 8 mana, 8, like Twisting Nether's 8 mana. Like that's a lot. Plus, Warlock already has, I think, other cute ways to attack combo decks with Nosferatu and the Project. So I think they have more efficient ways to try to high roll their opponent out of combos. Void Contract is just such an investment for like a maybe against 20% of the field. Otherwise, it just sits there and does nothing. So I'm gonna give it a 2 because its fringe application is inconsistent at best.
Yeah, this card, when I first read it, first thing I thought was, this is 8 mana, do nothing. That's still where I'm at. I'm going to rate this card 1 star. I think this card is super, super.
Okay. Well, speaking of interesting cards, Soul Warden, 6 mana, 6/6. Battle cry. 3 random cards you discard this game to your hand. So it helps with the drawback of discarding, and it allows you to generate some value. Like, this is a 6 mana 6/6 draw 3 a lot of the time.
Sounds really good.
I think this is like an 8-star card, and if there's a discard lock deck, you just slam 2 of this in your deck, and you're very pleased every time you draw it.
I agree. I think it's a pretty cut and dry, stupid good card in that type of deck. Now it has to be in that type of deck. This card.
This card also
deck.
goes infinite with itself.
Yes, it does. If you just, but I think it's a really good card. I love it. I think it's super good value for Warlock. And yeah, no, 8 out of 10. I'm sold on this card. If this bigger zoo strat works, this goes in there.
I'm not going to beat around the bush. You guys said it pretty well. This card is super duper powerful. Somebody pointed out that it's one of like the first cards in Hearthstone's history that's like a body that gains you strict card advantage that also like eliminates the downside of some of your other cards. And
Yeah.
like, it's just really, it's also 6 mana 6/6 in addition to doing that. So I think this card's like a shoe-in, super powerful card in a discard lock shell. I'll give it 7 out of 10 because it's a really niche card to a specific archetype, but it is powerful in that archetype for sure.
Alright, 2 mana, Spirit of the Bat, 0/3, stealth for 1 turret. If your friendly minion dies, get minion in your hand +1/+1. 2 stars, it's crap. It just doesn't do anything, and I'd rather play the Cauldron that adds a Shaman card to your hand if I was going to play some random effect like this. I don't think this effect is very powerful. It's not like Void, or it's not like Corridor Creeper, where that card also, like, it doesn't just reward trading, it also like plays around AoE kinda. So I don't really see this card doing a lot. I just think the card's crap. I'm actually gonna downgrade to a 1 star.
Jeez.
I'm gonna give it a 2 because it technically combos a little bit with a few of the cards in Warlock, like the Bat, doubling Imp. And it has a card we're going to talk about soon, Grim Rally, to further have other buff effects in the deck. So multiple buff effects, give one of these 3 minions in your deck. You probably play Chain Gang and just, a lot of chances to high roll. So that's kind of cute. But it's also 2 mana 0/3 that'll often do nothing for you. So 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm not super impressed with this card. Obviously, my master plan is to get to 10 mana, go Hyreek, coin, Zola, right? And then they don't have an AoE. Then the following turn, I can go Spirit of the Bat and defile my board, and the Farik that I copied will get absurdly large. And then the turn after that, you play that Farik.
For like,
Hyreek.
yeah, you put like 48 power in play.
Yeah, it's a powerful combo, but I'm not super like this card. Obviously wants to work with Hyreek, and it's not there, man. That's a big stretch. So, barring that, this card is 2 mana 0/3. Honestly, like I haven't really considered this card too much with the current zoo builds, and I'm not sure we can justify a 2 mana 0/3. Oh, I'm sorry, Kelliseth.
Yeah, also Kelliseth, but that's like a whole different argument.
Yeah, this card's 2 out of 10. Not good.
All right, let's reverse it. Let's go Shriek. 1 mana, discard your lowest cost card. Deal 2 damage to all minions. 10 stars. Card's nuts. It's cheap. It's a very cheap potential sweeper for control decks. The discarded card is fine if it saves your life. It's also like actually just fine if you want to play like a mid-range discard lock, because then you actually need the AoE to beat like Odd Paladin and shit like that. So I just think this card just does it all.
Yeah, I think this card's insanely good. I'm also going to give it 10. I think it's going to be underplayed when we get it. Still have Defile. And I think Defile is still better than this card by a lot. Like if this card is 10, then Defile is like a 14. But Defile is also probably like the best efficient board clear we've ever gotten in Hearthstone.
Defile is actual busted card.
Yeah, so Shriek is like a fair, really, really, really good card. That actually has a drawback opposed to Defile. Like Defile just says be good at math. Shriek at least makes you discard a card. But it's your lowest card, so you're not discarding your bomb. So whatever control deck you're in, you're not throwing away your Gul'dan or your Lich King or something. You're gonna throw away like your Sun Fury Protector. Which like, okay, worth it. 10 out of 10 will play after Defile. Before that, probably not. But really good.
I think this card's super powerful, as you guys just stated. And I'm looking at this card and thinking right now, this card doesn't go into any of the Warlock builds. However, this card's downside is potentially an upside in any deck that's playing Soul Warden. So
yeah.
Then it's potentially just 1 mana deal 2 damage. Look at it that way. Whichever card you want to give credit for the value. You can look at Soul Warden drawing you a card, or you can look at this card not having a downside. It's the same thing. But yeah, I think it's 9 out of 10. Insanely efficient AoE. You pointed out earlier, like Volcanic Potion saw play at 3 mana. So how good is Volcanic Potion at 1?
Yeah.
Really, really, really strong.
All right. Grim Rally. 1 mana, destroy a friendly minion, give your minions +1/+1. If Zoo stayed the exact same way it currently looks, I think this would be like a very medium card that actually probably wouldn't make the deck. If Zoo starts to play Death Rattle cards, some sort of egg, or just like good Death Rattle cards, because there's lots out there, then I think this card becomes very good. So I'm going to give it a 7, because I think it might be, I think it's powerful enough that people are going to start trying Zoo with Death Rattle effects. And as simple as that, if there's Death Rattle effects in your Zoo, this card's nuts.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's no, power overwhelming or whatever. It's not that card, but it's, it's a way to kill a friendly minion to get a positive effect, which Warlock has always found ways to abuse. So I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 because it will be played. I just don't know where.
I'm trying to think of like how to make this card. Play this and pop a cube that summons like 2 Void Lords and then buff them. Like I probably already won that game. Same with Doom Guards. Like maybe if I just broke my Void Lord and I had a board full of 1/3s and I played this card, that would be pretty powerful. Outside of that, I'm not really convinced like I'm gonna get the value I want out of this card. Especially at 1 mana, like because it's a 1 mana card that I'm definitely not playing on turn 1. So I think this card has a lot of potential because like there are a lot of minions that like we used to have a 1 mana 1/1. Like this would be a semi-strong effect in that deck, but I think this has to buff at least 3 minions to be worth how difficult it is to get value out of, and even then, that's super hard to do. So I'm gonna rate it, probably 4 out of 10.
Okay. It's interesting you went straight to like the cube block area because I was thinking of like Zoo and how they used to use eggs and stuff.
Oh, I like Nerubian Egg and stuff.
Yeah, so this
PO, oh my god, it was so
powerful.
Yeah.
Devilsaur Egg, play this card, +1/+1 your board and get a 6/6.
We do actually have 4 enablers now.
So,
Well, we have 6 now. There's a 1 mana 1/1 that eats a dude and becomes a 3/3.
Oh, right, yeah.
We've actually had 4 for a long time and haven't played 4, so I don't think this makes the cut.
yeah,
Well-
probably, that's a fair point.
Yeah. We did get another egg this set, though.
Yes, we did.
We could build egg lock, like, I'm just saying. Either way, let's talk about Demon Bolt.
I dream big.
8 mana, destroy a minion, cost 1 less for each minion you control. I think this is a 6-star card. I think it's a 1 or 2 of in Zoo and unplayable anywhere else. I don't really have a lot to say except unconditional removal is good, especially when it costs like 2 or 3.
Yeah. What was the rating you gave that?
6.
6. Before I'm gonna say that real quick. I'm sorry, JT. What did you say you rated Shriek?
Shriek? I think I said 9.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
I just left that box open by accident.
That card's gonna be a pack.
Demon Bolt looks like. I mean, this card actually looks insane in like a deck like Block. Like, just having like a 1 mana kill a thing after like popping your stuff. Plus, like, if Siphon Soul is like remotely playable and gains you 3 health at 6, how much does this have to be good? 4 would be 4 mana destroy a minion is probably like good enough because Assassinate isn't quite good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this card's okay. I think I'm gonna give this card a 7 for now because I think Cube Shenanigans actually makes this pretty silly. Along with Void Lord, but after rotation, I'm gonna have a hard time playing this card.
Yeah, I think the only redeeming quality of this card is like the existing Void Lord. Other than that, it's extremely difficult to make this card worth playing. I think it needs to be 4 mana to be worth playing. I'm actually gonna rate this card 5 out of 10 because I don't think it's. I think it's actually really hard to enable, and I think Cube Block can actually fit this card in their deck. That's just a super tight list.
Okay. Next card. Blood Troll Sapper. 7 mana, 5/8. After friendly minion dies, deal 2 to the enemy hero. Clearly intended for Zoo. Cost shit tons of mana. Body is medium. 2-star card, unplayable. Too much mana.
Yeah, it's not even a demon, so I'm not interested in it.
You can't play around AoE with it is the problem until it's really late.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's 2. It's awkwardly costs too much. I don't know what deck wants.
Also not impressed. 7 mana, 5/8. I mean, depending on the matchup, dealing 2 damage. Opponent's enemy hero is a downside. Like, 7 mana for a 5/8 is probably just not going to cut it. So I'm going to give this card probably 3 out of 10. Yeah, because like I rated the 7 mana 5/7 earlier. I think higher than that because the battle cry was relevant, but I don't think this card's text is very relevant at all. So I think it's a 10.
Fun fact, I think that's the fastest we've done a card. Let's
Boom.
try and do this card this fast. Reckless Dire Troll. 3 mana, 2/8, taunt, discard your lowest cost card.
It's a 2/6. 2/6.
Oh yeah, 2/6, sorry. I think this is a 8-star card. It's great in the discard lock. It's an early taunt, it's a good body, and the battle cry is like an upside in that deck. And because you know it's your lowest cost card, you can actually like use that information.
Yeah, I love this card. I think this card's insane. I think this is not only good in this beefier zoo lock that they're trying to push on us. I think this is good in the zoo lock we have now. Like, Kaliseth this into a 3/7. Like, a 3/7 taunt for 3 is absurd. A 2/6 with taunt for 3 is solid. This is going to get played in some sort of aggro deck. I'm going to give it an 8 as well. I kind of want to give it a 9, but because it's discarding a card instead of giving up health, which doesn't matter, I'm going to have to give it an 8.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how impactful the card deck actually ends up being because this card is super duper bonkers in that deck. But I agree that this card will see play outside of just that niche archetype, and it is extremely powerful against other aggro. And like people already put Tar Creep on some of their zoo lists to try and protect their early cost minions to push extra damage and get favorable trades. Well, this card is I think a lot better than Tar Creep, in my opinion. Especially when the battle cry has an upside. So I think I'm gonna rate it. Man, 8's across the board. Let's do it. 8 out of 10.
Alright, let's jump into our very last class of cards.